for moving to Mexico, but their complaints are very different. Targeting Trump, the Indiana Republican leader making it his mission to take down the GOP frontrunner. And the final week for state lawmakers. Will funding for bridge and highway repairs avoid a final roadblock?
From RTV6, Indianapolis This Week.
Thank you so much for joining us here. We're also with you on Twitter right now. Chat live with us at Indy This Week. Another extraordinary week in the world of politics, including Super Tuesday and, of course, the Republican debate. But we start with that showdown over Carrier moving jobs to Mexico. A face-to-face meeting at the Statehouse over those 2,000 jobs leaving Indiana. The head of Carrier coming to the governor's office offering to repay tax money to the state, but not to keep the 2 Indiana plants open. After that meeting, the governor facing tough questions in an exclusive interview with our own Rafael Sanchez.
Has been leveling off.
Governor, thank you so much for your time. You met with Carrier's top executive, Robert McDonough. He oversees the Carrier division for United Technologies. You met for over an hour. You called it frank and productive. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think we expressed our profound disappointment on behalf of all the families that will be impacted by Carrier and United Technologies' decision to leave Indiana for Mexico. And frankly, we also expressed disappointment in the way it was handled. I mean, our administration almost learned about this in the newspaper. And that's just unacceptable given the long-standing relationship that the people of Indiana and the state of Indiana has had with this company. We were disappointed with the way it was handled. We communicated that, but we were very straightforward about our desire to do everything in our power to save these jobs and at minimum to make sure that the workers and their families are given the benefits that they have earned and the opportunities that they deserve.
What should have Carrier done, considering the fact that they had received in the past hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax credits, state grants? How would you have wanted this to have happened? Or did you want a call? Did you want a letter or an email? What would have been the better protocol? And I ask that in the event there's another company out there that may be thinking of doing the same thing.
Well, look, the state of Indiana has had a strong working relationship with Carrier. This is a great company that's been in Indiana for decades. It's a tremendous workforce and enjoys a great reputation. And the state of Indiana has, in this administration and previous administrations, offered incentives, training dollars. And that's been a great investment for Indiana. But there's been a partnership there, and I would have hoped, in any case, as we did in the recent Dow-DuPont merger, that when things are beginning to change, that we would be given the opportunity before decisions get very far down the road to see how we might be able to work to have a positive outcome for the workers and for their families. And we are still holding out hope. No final decisions have been made with regard to Indianapolis. Huntington is clearly closing down in the next 3 years and moving jobs to Mexico. But with regard to some 1,400 jobs here in Indianapolis, those negotiations are ongoing. And I just communicated to them that if there is a proper role for the state of Indiana to come alongside and help reach a solution that keeps those jobs here, we're prepared to do that. I just would have liked the opportunity to be involved in that conversation sooner.
Governor, I traveled to Monterrey, Mexico on behalf of RTV6. Did you see those stories?
I did.
Chance? And we talked to regular people there in Monterrey. And some of them said they could not afford this $3 an hour proposition being offered to the workers in Monterrey. When Mr. McDonough was walking into your office, I asked him, would he take a job for $3 an hour? Mr. McDonough, good morning and welcome to Indianapolis. Will you change your mind? Will you change your mind and keep the jobs?
Looking forward to a great meeting with the governor.
Sir, would you work for $3 an hour?
Looking forward to discussing with the governor the transition for our workers and getting back to business.
So I take it you would not work for $3 an hour, sir? Can we compete against countries that are paying their employees $3 an hour, whether it's Mexico or Thailand or Vietnam?
Well, one of the great things about Indiana's economy today is we do that every day. The workers in Indiana, I think, are the best in the country and the best in the world. Our productivity is second to none. In fact, at the Carrier facility here in Indianapolis, they have a gold star rating in productivity, and even after the heartbreaking news of a few weeks ago, productivity has still remained very high. Our workers in Indiana know how to make things, practice excellence, and that's why you see our manufacturing economy growing. That's what really makes this decision so incomprehensible to me. In our meeting, I pressed Bob McDonough on that point. I said, we've got companies moving into Indiana from around the country and around the world. We're the leading manufacturing state in the country. And after he told me their decision had nothing to do with the business environment in the state of Indiana, he talked about federal regulations. He talked about the Department of Energy. He talked about the EPA and the fact that in their industry, 7 of their competitors are already in Mexico today. And pointing to the excessive, if not his words but mine, avalanche of red tape under this current administration that's been driving jobs out of this country. That's got to change. But at the end of the day, if you can lose jobs from the best manufacturing state in America, with the best business environment in America, and see those jobs go to Mexico, then something's got to change in this country.
I want to thank you, as always, for being accessible and your hospitality. I do appreciate that, Governor. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Our thanks to the governor and to Rafael for all his reporting. Now the anger over Carrier moving to Mexico goes well beyond Indiana, all the way to the nation's capital. Senator Joe Donnelly expressing his anger to us, including suggesting that Carrier is being dishonest about why it's leaving the state.
They've never cited a single regulation in regards to this, and said that the regulations in Mexico are exactly the same as in the United States. It's real clear what this is about. This is about Carrier chasing Mexican wages at $3 an hour. When you look at a company that has made $7 billion in earnings last year, that's not sales, that's profits. Their CEO made over $7 million last year. Their CEO before that one, just a year or two ago, took home $195 million on his last day. And the savings they're going to have from this is a fly speck compared to their operations. What the governor ought to be doing is helping us point out that there's been extraordinary success in this plant, that this is really chasing $3 an hour wages. And so what Carrier needs to do is sit down with us and say, how can we work together for that gap that's out there that you're talking about? How can we work together? Because we're already making over $7 billion in profits. The CEO has already walked off this year with over $7 million in paychecks for him alone. Let's see if we can make it so that every Hoosier family, most of these workers, or many of these workers, their paycheck is less than $15 an hour. Let's give them a shot at the American dream as well.
Our thanks to the senator. We have also obtained this letter to Senator Donnelly from Jim Schellinger, head of the state's Economic Development Commission. The letter takes issue with the senator's public statements about Carrier's move, saying, again, the company blames federal regulations. He also defends Governor Pence's leadership after Carrier's decision, calling it outstanding and exemplary. Well, he was the big winner among Republicans on Super Tuesday. Now a leading Indiana Republican is joining the fight to make it anyone but Donald Trump. I talk with him next. You're watching Indianapolis This Week, only on RTV6. Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week. We turn to the Statehouse now and the final week of the legislative session. Republican leaders and Governor Pence trying to get past roadblocks and approve funding to fix Indiana's highways and bridges. But the fight over Carrier is also weighing on the minds of lawmakers. Our Katie Hines speaking with House Speaker Brian Bosma.
What, if anything, do you think at this point the state can do to change their minds?
You know, that's exactly what I was told. I was not participating in the meeting, but the governor briefed me personally about it. And he said that the company executive said there were 220 both Department of Energy and EPA regulations that have been adopted in the last 3 years that didn't drive them out of Indiana, it's driven them out of the country. So, and that they were excited still about Indiana's business environment, but just didn't feel they could compete in America versus Mexico. So it's very clear that we have to turn federal regulation back. We have done a great job of that here in Indiana. It's been an ongoing effort for the last 10 years to deregulate. In fact, we have the #1 small business regulatory environment in the nation, according to the Pacific Research Institute. This is obviously big business and a lot of federal regulations. So we're going to have to work with our colleagues in Washington, D.C. to see what we can do.
Does the clawback provision approved earlier this week have any teeth?
It had some technical difficulties. We didn't see it prior to it being filed, but it did have an impact the governor felt on letting the carrier know that we were serious about this. And of course, they agreed to pay back all their state incentives and all local tax abatements and incentives as well. They offered that up. So I'm not sure that the amendment had any impact on that, but it certainly didn't hurt.
How do you characterize this session kind of heading into the final week here?
Well, much has been accomplished on the big issues that we had declared at the start of the session. A lot of positive education issues, supportive of teachers and schools. Testing reformation is in the works, and we'll come to conclusion on all those. Our declared war on meth and heroin, I think, has been a tremendous success. Both the penalty increases, the addiction treatment positives that have happened, and the restriction of methamphetamine precursors in a way that's really helpful to law enforcement, but not overly intrusive on consumers. It has been a tremendous success. So all of those are good. A couple of outliers. We still have to work on road funding, and we're going to work hard to try to bring that to a successful conclusion where everyone can feel that they've gained a positive for the state, and a few other issues.
Last year, I know you had said that 2016 would have to be the transportation session. Do you think it's still on track to be?
Well, it certainly has been in the House. As you're well aware, we adopted some very modest user fees directly linked to road funding, and felt very good about that. Senate doesn't seem to be interested in it. Our ultimate goal is to get the sales tax on gasoline into road funding. Most folks feel that when they buy a gallon of gas at the station, all of the taxes that they pay go toward roads, and that's not the case. It needs to be remedied. Our plan did that. The governor and Senate plan does not. We're just trying to find if we can make progress on it. We knew this may be more than a one-session effort, so hopefully we'll have a solid plan when we leave here.
What do you think, Speaker, is the likelihood of the General Assembly adjourning without a transportation plan?
Well, it could happen. We're going to have to find some room for compromise. We do have the Department of INDOT Transportation has remarkably reduced greatly its estimates of need, cutting them by more than half of prior items. I'm not exactly sure how all that transpired. So it's our intent to complete this successfully with the tools for local units of government, perhaps some temporary measures for the state, and have an adult conversation next year, which the Senate has indicated they're agreeable to, on user fees that would go directly toward roads.
Our thanks to you both. We turn now from the Statehouse to the presidential race, and what a week it was. Donald Trump, of course, huge wins on Super Tuesday in that debate. Thursday night, more name-calling and insults than policy discussion. Now a top Indiana Republican, a Republican National Committee member, is joining the mission to nominate anyone but Trump.
I've given a lot of thought. There is an anger, an anxiety, a huge worry within the American populace about the future of the country, to the point where I think people are looking for a strong voice, but they've found the wrong strong voice. Donald Trump does not have the temperament or the character to be the President of the United States, the most powerful country in the Western world. And we need to kind of apply some common sense to this, and we need to find an alternative. And I feel like it's time that we stand up and speak out and try to address some of what he is about. And he is playing to the base fears and instincts, nativist, nationalistic fears and instincts of the populace. And I think we've got to find a way to understand what's happening to ourselves and find a different person.
Strong words from Indiana attorney and Republican National Committee member John Hammond, who says a Trump win is not guaranteed yet.
First of all, we don't have our convention until July. So it's never too late to stand up for what is right and what is good and what is enduring and the things that need to count in our society. And no one waited too long The so-called establishment, that's an easy label. Every one of us, certainly I know in my own case, grassroots Republican activists, that's how we got involved. Just because you have a title doesn't make you part of the establishment. Doesn't mean you've lost touch with the grassroots. And that's, I think, the disconnect we have out there. That's something we need to communicate to all members of the Republican Party, that we need a better choice than Donald Trump to take this country to the next level.
As for where this all goes from here,
first time in my adult life it's possible that we would have a part to play in the outcome of the convention nomination process. So it is possible at this stage. I don't see others getting out outside of Ben Carson. I think there's a real possibility that no one will have a majority of votes, 1,237 votes, delegates going into the convention. And at a contested convention, we can make some decisions about what's best for America and what's best for the Republican Party.
And as for now, any apparent split shouldn't indicate a potential Republican Party breakup, long-term or short-term.
You know, every party has factions. The Democratic Party has factions in it. The Republican Party has always had factions in it. So that split, whatever you might want to call it, in its rawest terms, it's been developing since 2008 with the advance of Ron Paul and during that period of time, for example, and the Tea Party movement. I think it's been an attempt to try to bring everybody into the tent. The problem is, and someone else said it better than I, that Donald Trump is chasing people out of one end of the tent and closing the other end off. And that's the concern we have. If we're not going to broaden our party's base and our ability to solve the problems that this country faces with that type of leadership.
Oh, he's asking.
Our thanks to John Hammond. Coming up, we're asking our political insiders, is the Republican Party imploding with the Trump candidacy? We're watching Indianapolis This Week on RTV6. And welcome back to Indianapolis This Week. We're joined by our political insiders, Mary Beth, Laura, Abdul. Thanks for being here in the wake of the debate on Thursday, which I felt at times I didn't want my mom to watch. Did anyone come out of the debate as a winner? Abdul?
No.
I would say the best person who came out as a winner would more than likely be John Kasich, who kind of stayed out of the fray and said, hey, look, I'm the grown-up in the room. I'm actually talking about issues and policy and substance. But unfortunately, a lot of that got drowned out in the Rubio-Trump Cruz three-way, whatever that was supposed to be.
Laura?
I have to make a confession in full disclosure. I couldn't even bring myself to watch the debate.
I don't think you were alone.
I saw the I saw the recaps, and that was enough for me. I mean, I think frankly every time these guys get up on the stage and debate, I think the people who look the best are the Democrat candidates, and so I feel like it's really showing people the alternatives between real leadership and the grown-ups in the room, and then just a complete and total sideshow.
I might have agreed with Abdul about John Kasich because, unlike the other candidates, he is the only one who hasn't actually gone slumming in this debate. But he kills it at the very end when, along with everybody else, when they say, will Donald Trump be the nominee? Would you support him? And he says, yes. I don't think you can stand there. Rubio uses on his Twitter account the hashtag #NeverTrump. And yet, Never Trump, he'll go with him if he's the nominee. It was appalling.
Do you think that it's a done deal at this point, that we're headed towards a brokered convention?
Not brokered. Contested, I think, is more likely. Brokered, I don't think they've got power brokers anymore to broker anything.
Yeah, see, but I use the term broker, but just in the same context as you do. It's a contested convention, because right now I did the math. Donald Trump has about 43% of the delegates, give or take. And if he stays in that trajectory, he goes in without a clear majority. And there are some things in the RNC rules that can get really complicated that may cause the Trump people a lot of trouble. And I tell people it's a convention, it's delegates, it's not necessarily primary voters, and this is why potentially Republicans in 2016 could be Chicago in 1968.
It could be blood on the floor, basically, because if Trump goes in leading, and then you're going to take it away from him. There are going to be a whole bunch of delegates who are going to be furious there, and they are not going to agree to taking somebody else. And I don't know how they get out of it in only 4 days.
Well, and I think one of the things we're definitely seeing, and it's challenging for the Republican Party, is that the establishment either has no idea where their base is and their primary base is in terms of the anger that they're feeling, or that they don't realize how much they've contributed to fanning the flames of this voter anger. And so that anger could come back and just bite them when they're at the convention on that.
I will go with you.
You're right on that, Mary.
I will go with Laura on the second point. My Republican friends for too long have gotten in bed with crazy, and now they contracted a disease.
Yeah, Romney. I mean, Romney comes out attacking him this week, but Romney accepted his endorsement in 2012.
Right.
And you can say, well, he hadn't said all these
the crazy stuff
things.
yet.
He'd said quite a few of the crazy things, including that President Obama was born in Kenya. So he really should not have been pursuing him then, and it would have helped if he had explained when he disavowed him now, why was he okay in 2012?
We've got a few seconds left. Do you think that Trump is a GOP nominee?
No, contested.
I think he will be, actually. I think he will. I don't know how they get out of it. I don't know how they're going to get out of this.
If it's not Trump, who is it?
Oh, God.
I will say TBA.
It's a collective hands in the air from our political insiders at this point.
I'm saying he's your nominee. He is your guy.
No, my guy is a guy named Gary Johnson, a libertarian who's normal.
And not on the ballot.
And not on the ballot.
Our thanks to our political insiders. Our conversation continues with them, as always, on Twitter right now at Indy This Week. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Indianapolis this week. As we had mentioned, stay with us for a very big week in politics. We're going to be at the Statehouse all week long for the final days of the legislative session, including those potential huge developments on road funding. Thank you so much for joining us here. We'll be with the legislature all week long to keep track of what happens. For Katie, Raphael, and our entire team, have a fantastic Sunday, everybody.